Yeah, welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast. Got a pretty serious episode here today. Not sure how long it's gonna run. Gonna try to keep it around the normal length, somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes, but definitely want to talk about the topic Ja Morant and his future and what's going on with him. But before we do that, you know what it is. Go ahead, click that subscribe, that like, and that notification bell so you can be notified when new episodes and new content comes out, and you can always stay on top of that. If you want the audio only version of the podcast, go ahead, open up your audio podcast platform, type in the Format Podcast, do a little search, and we should come up. Make sure you go ahead, give us that 5-star review, and leave us a comment on your audio podcast platform or right here on YouTube. All that stuff helps us rise in the algorithm, helps us find more sports fans, helps more sports fans find us. Can't thank you enough. Channel's really been growing lately, so stay with us. Keep sharing it out, keep clicking that like, keep clicking that subscribe. All that stuff helps a whole bunch. All right, so let's get to it. Serious topic today, Ja Morant. If you're an NBA fan, you know that this guy is one of the best young players in the league, one of the most exciting young players, one of the most exciting players, period, in the NBA. And the way he plays, he could really be a star for the next decade or more in the NBA. He's already on his second deal. I think he's got like 200 mil from the Grizzlies. He's got a shoe deal, all that. He's basically living the life. He's living the life that most people dream of. All right. So why am I bringing up Ja Morant? Because, well, recently Ja Morant, he's been in some trouble, and it's not good. You know, well, let's just talk about it, okay? So recently, I think it was a few days ago, and this is what really kind of, you've been hearing little things back and forth, not little things, but you've been hearing things, but this is the one that really kind of has gotten everything going nuts. He was in a club the other night, and he did an Instagram live, and he showed what appeared to be a pistol in the video. And obviously that was a big no-go. And don't get me wrong, people, I'm not anti-Second Amendment. I'm not anti-firearm, as some of you who know me know, and some of you may or may not know. I did serve in the Army, so I'm not anti-firearm, but I am common sense when it comes to firearms. So anyway, Ja Morant, he's making an Instagram live video. He shows the pistol in the video. Not smart, right? And just like, what are you thinking? But that's not the first issue Ja Morant's had. So let's kind of go back to his timeline with these issues, all right? So, excuse me. So on January 29th, the Grizzlies played the Indiana Pacers. They won the game, no problem, 112-100. And the Grizzlies, really good young team. Haven't won anything yet, but very solid. If I'm not mistaken, conference semis last year. But anyway, really good team. So they beat the Pacers this year, January 29th. And reporters from The Athletic stated on February 5th that several Indiana Pacers staffers felt they were in grave danger after acquaintances of Grizzly star Ja Morant aggressively confronted members of the Pacers traveling party near the team's bus in the loading area of FedEx Forum, and later, someone in a slow-moving SUV in which Ja Morant was riding trained a red laser on them. So for those of you who don't know what the red laser is, the red laser beam is a targeting system that can go on top of firearms to ensure that basically where the laser goes, that's where the round goes. So you put the laser on the target, and when you fire that weapon, that's where the bullet goes. You will hit as long as the laser's on the target. So that's the first thing. And the NBA apparently did an investigation into the situation, cleared Ja Morant and his friends of any wrongdoing. But at the same time, you already know that once your name starts getting brought up in these things, even if you're cleared, things are going to start sticking to you, right? All right, moving right along. On March 1st, 2023, about a week ago, the Washington Post releases a story after obtaining police reports that Ja Morant was involved in 2 separate incidents last summer. First incident, Ja Morant is accused of repeatedly punching a teenager in the head during a pickup basketball game on his property before he went into his house, grabbed a gun, put it in his waistband, and flashed it at the teen. So Ja Morant's agent disputed the report and states, quote, "Any and every allegation involving a firearm has been fully investigated and could not be corroborated," unquote. This includes the NBA investigation last month in which they found no evidence. So this is Ja Morant's agent saying this. Ja Morant told detectives who were investigating this thing that he acted in self-defense after the teenager threw a ball at Ja's head and reportedly said, quote, "I'm going to come back and light this place up like fireworks," unquote. So two things here, right? You hear Ja Morant's agent come out and say that any and every allegation involving a firearm has been fully investigated, could not be corroborated. But to me, that doesn't add up because Ja Morant told the detectives investigating the case that he acted in self-defense, which means there had to be some merit to the claims. So yeah, not quite working out, right? Ja Morant and his agent got to get on the same page with this stuff. Okay. The second incident, Ja Morant's mother was reportedly at Finish Line at a local mall when she got into a shouting match with a store employee before calling her son, who showed up with 9 friends. Quick question. Why is Ja Morant's mom at Finish Line? This guy's got $200 million. Send somebody over there to get what you need, right? Keep it simple. Also, why is she getting into a shouting match with a store employee? I used to work at Finish Line years ago. I was an assistant manager, probably around 2005, 2006 timeframe. And I have never gotten into, nor have I seen anyone get into a shouting match with a customer. So that's kind of weird. Again, that's a long time ago. So different time, different people. But the point I'm trying to make is, why was she getting into a shouting match with a store employee at Finish Line? Anyway, she calls her son and Josh shows up with 9 friends. They allegedly began heckling the security guard and even pushed him in the head before asking him what time he gets off, which the guard took as a threat. He filed a police report, but no arrests were made. This apparently happened just days before allegedly beating the team. Okay, so now you've got 3 separate instances with Ja Morant. Like, okay, it's one thing if somebody accuses you of something and it didn't happen, but now it's starting to add up. You're getting multiple instances of issues with this guy. Okay. March 4th, 2023. This is the infamous Instagram Live situation. Memphis gets blown out by the West Best Nuggets Friday evening, and Ja Morant proceeds to hit up a club with some of his friends, ultimately hopping on IG Live in the early hours of Saturday morning. And this is where he allegedly flashes the gun. Now, that's providing it was a real gun. It looked like a little small pistol, but that's when this happened. So, quick note. And this is generational, right? But you hear some of the older guys, right? The Magic Johnsons and the Isaiah Thomases, the Larry Birds, Michael Jordans, all those guys, when they lost, they were sick, they were miserable. So it's kind of interesting. Memphis gets blown out and he goes out to party. Okay, he goes out to party. Maybe he wants to get it off his mind. But you go out to party and then you're doing Instagram Live and showing a pistol. Like, I don't really understand this. Okay. This says the NBA quickly looked into the video and shortly after Morant was suspended. That resulted in the 4th-year player deactivating his Instagram and Twitter. So, yeah. Then he spoke out on the situation, and we will get to that because that was actually a good thing. But so we hear the timeline of the issues with Ja Morant. Not cool at all. Okay. So before we really get into the topic, let's hear some of the differing perspectives on this. Jalen Rose, Stephen A. Smith, Jay Williams, all these guys are prominent voices in terms of covering the NBA. So let's hear some of their commentary on the situation.
Let me look in the camera and say what I'm about to say to Ja Morant. You are a superstar. You're 23 years old. You got a deal that kicks in next year that could exceed $231 million over the next 5 years. And on this show, on national television, there's you associated with police. Think about that for a second. And then ask yourself, is it really, really worth it? You know the answer to that, bro. It's not worth it. You're a superstar basketball player. You represent your organization. You represent your family. You represent your city. You've got to be mindful of all of that. It's never off. And so many times we don't tell these players this. NBA has off-duty police officers. They've got connections with the FBI. They got connections with everybody. The NBA knows what you're doing. They know who you're doing it with. They know where you are. They know how you're conducting yourself at all times. Don't think they're not watching. They're always watching. And when I get upset is that all of us, Jalen's from the streets of New York, Detroit, I'm from the streets of New York City. You know, we know this kind of stuff. We know the kind of things that people fight just to protect the few dollars they have. What do you think an organization is going to do to protect their multi-billion-dollar investment?
I am Ja Morant. Like, you guys have got a chance to see me grow up for public consumption since 1991. And I've been involved in drug raids. I've survived assassination attempts. I've been that undisciplined young person that was trying to figure out how to be famous, how to be successful, and how to change the dynamics of my family. The one thing that young people have to understand, and in Ja Morant's case, when you first get drafted, you go from being a member of the family, a member of the crew, to being the leader, to being the breadwinner. And first and foremost, I hear a lot of people talking about like his family and his crew. When you the leader, it's on you. You have to choose wisely. He has way too much to lose. Trust me, I've been that young player carrying a gun. And Wilbon alluded to this. When you start waving it, that could get you killed. That's an entirely different thing than we're talking about. A superstar athlete should be putting themselves in position. And as Stephen A. mentioned, that's him on the video, on his IG Live.
I saw the video over the weekend, and my first reaction was to myself, what the hell are you doing, Ja? Like, obviously, there are these allegations against you about, showing a pistol to a teenager at your house, an incident happening at Foot Locker. All these things are happening. Why are you bringing more attention to yourself? But Max, like you and I were talking about, that to me seemed like it was a cry for help. Now, there's so many avenues to go into this issue with Ja Morant. Ja Morant is a young man who has all the talent in the world, but he needs to be held accountable for his actions. And for me, I from somebody who made mistakes and made a pretty big mistake that got criticized and broken down by a lot of people, I can empathize with Ja, because who he has around him will determine his ultimate altitude. A lot of times when you're a young man that comes into fame, and I think Jalen Rose did a great job, and I applaud him for his comments on NBA Countdown on Friday, and if you need to listen to it, he starts off by saying, I am Ja Morant. He was that guy that carried a pistol back in the day. I've seen NBA players. I play with guys that have carried Glocks on them, that have done things, even though there's no need for them because they've graduated from that type of society, right? But there's still a feeling that they need to protect their own. Who Ja Morant surrounds himself with has to change. His decision-making and the processing that he has to go through has to change.
Okay, so here's the question. This is $1 million question, right? Ja Morant is living the life that so many people would want to, in terms of the money, in terms of the attention, in terms of what that money allows you to be able to do. He's an NBA superstar. How many young kids, especially young black kids, want to be in his shoes? All right, cool. So the question is this: why are you trying to be a thug or be street? Why? Again, this is the type of situation that people dream of. And literally, the guys in the street are in the street because they want the type of money that you have, and you're getting it to play a game. All right? Okay. Now, Ja Morant and clearly the people that he has around him don't seem to be the best for him. Now, I can't blame it all on his friends, but sometimes when you reach a certain level, and you've heard other elite athletes say this, and stars, etc., not just athletes, but when you reach a certain level and you come from a certain environment, unfortunately, and even if it's not a certain environment, sometimes you have to cut off people who aren't good for you, right? Because they may not have to lose what you have to lose, and they and you will end up ruining your life if you let it happen. It's that simple. Sometimes you got to cut this off. Like, you're not in the hood anymore. As far as I know, I don't think Ja Morant grew up in the hood to start with. think he grew up in a pretty stable 2-parent household, which basically says that, you know, you are in a better position to succeed than a single parent household. All the statistics say that. His dad was in his life. That's a big one. His dad, I think, has been his only trainer for his whole life. So his father played an integral role in him being as successful as he is. Okay. Human beings, we know they learn and mature throughout life. We also know science teaches us that the human brain is not fully formed and reaching a level of legitimate maturity until about age 25. Now, I know it probably sounds like I'm judging Ja Morant here, so let me give a little bit of transparency. All right. I'm 44 years old now, but if I'm at 23, which Ja Morant is, and I have $200 million and the endorsement deals and I'm a celebrity and all that. Now, even when I was younger, I was never a partying dude. Like, people who know me will know that I never really liked the club. I don't drink. I don't, you know, all that stuff is not really a big thing to me. Right. So all that being in the street and being in the club and partying and brandishing pistols and all that, not really my thing. Now, I'm a different dude. Everyone's not like me. I respect that. I understand that, right? But me at 23, I wouldn't know what to do with that kind of money. I would have no idea what to do with that type of dough, right? And all the fame and attention, it's never really been me either. My biggest problem, and I'll be 100% honest, as a man, it would be trying to deal with the women, right? Because when you have that type of money and that type of fame, what comes to you in most cases? A lot of women. That would be my biggest issue if I was that age and getting that kind of money. Because, you know, I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend that I knew at 23 what I know at 44. I mean, there's textbook classroom knowledge that you pick up between then and now. There's a great deal of life experience that you pick up between then and now. And all that shapes your life, how you behave, how you see things, how you react to situations. So, I don't want it to seem like I'm judging this young man because he's 23. However, and the fact is I'm working on myself and working on being less judgmental. But in this situation, I just can't have it. Why? Because to me, this is all so stupid and easily avoidable. Okay? Stupid and easily avoidable. Plain and simple. Why are you doing this? Okay, even if you want to enjoy yourself, have a good time, Ja Morant, you're rich, right? Bring the party to you where you can control who gets in and what happens. You have much more control over the situation, right? You have control over who's around you. You have control over what happens. And earlier I mentioned about being careful and having to cut off some people. It looks like it may be about time that that's going to need to happen. But yeah, this is stupid and avoidable, right? As Black people in America, yes, I'm going to go here because I need to, especially Black men. Many of us often get upset when we get pigeonholed or stereotyped, or people make assumptions about us based on where we're from or how we look or how we speak, right? They think they know our character. So you get upset. But then you get a young man like this who has literally everything, and it's almost like you're trying to throw it away. You have the entire world in front of you, Ja Morant, and you're trying to throw it away because you want to be a thug? You want to be in the street? Like, what's going on here? I don't get it. I just don't get it. But then you're going to get upset if, you know, you are somewhere and let's just say some random older white person or some random older white law enforcement official doesn't know who Ja Morant, star point guard of the Memphis Grizzlies, is and decides to start harassing you, right? You're going to get upset because you're stereotyped and pigeonholed. But guess what? You're out here on social media living up to those stereotypes. You're putting yourself in the pigeonhole. You don't get to get upset now. You don't, okay? Everything in the world is in front of you, Ja Morant. Don't throw it away, okay? It makes zero sense. Like, what are we doing, people? Now, I'm not saying this young man's life is over. Not at all. He's got a long way to go and a lot to learn. And I respect the fact that, you know, he's willing to do that. He's got to smarten up now before it really gets out of control. That's not what you want. And no one is saying that he can't learn from this, but in my estimation, this is something that never should have happened at all. All right. Again, we all learn throughout our lives through different situations, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's life experience, whether it's an amalgam of both. Got it. But Ja, you got to do better than this, plain and simple. I'm really disappointed. And I hope that during this indefinite suspension, you take this time away, you get yourself together, you cut away some dead meat. And when I say dead meat, I mean You know, those people who are around you that are not having your best interest at heart, they're probably hangers on, right? They're in the street. You don't need to be in the street. You don't need to have them around you, plain and simple. You need to cut those people out of your life, and you need to know what's best for you. All right. Yeah, that was a lot, man. But what I want to know from you is, what do you think about the Ja Morant situation? Am I being too harsh on him, being a young man, being that he's a young man and I'm an older man? Am I being too judgmental? What do you think? What do you want to see from him in the future? And can't wait to get back to you on the next episode. And I'm out. Peace.